This is prosecutorial madness, what I'm seeing in the KarenRead case. They are not acting like normal prosecutors. And are they breaking any rules? Not necessarily. Not necessarily. But you really have to pull back from this and take a look at the big picture to fully understand how different all this is, and then try to understand why. That's what I'm interested in, is why are they acting the way they are acting? And there might be an answer to it. And there might be a pretty simple answer to it. But what we're seeing right now in the KarenRead case, I've only really seen in one other place. But that was more the actions of the judge than the prosecutor, although it kind of goes hand in hand, in the Delphi case. And what you're seeing is prosecutors not acting the way they normally do in trying a case. Now, I've been covering cases across the nation, the highest profile cases, for decades now at Court TV. That's all we do, is cover high profile cases. So these are cases many times with strong defense teams, with defendants who may have money, they may have fame, they may have access to resources that the day-to-day defendant in our system doesn't have. And that's certainly the case here. But it doesn't change everyone's role. And I've spoken at length through the years about the role of the defense attorney and the role of the prosecutor and how they're different. And when I usually talk about it, I'm usually attacking the defense, sort of in a passive aggressive way, but attacking the defense in what their role is in the courtroom. But what I'm seeing here is a little different, and I'm going to explain it all. It will make sense once I put all my thoughts together for you and lay them out. But the bottom line is this is not normal, what we're seeing. I'm Vinny Politan. You're watching Vinny Live.
Hey, get ready, get set, let's go.
It's true crime, streaming live, worldwide. It's Vinny Live. It's true crime, streaming live, worldwide. It's Vinny Live. Get ready. So post inside the chat. Get ready for the prosecutor hat. Get set to like and to subscribe. Let's go. It's time for Vinny Live.
Good morning. It's Wednesday already. I get back to work week is going fast, believe it or not. Great to have you aboard. I'm Vinny Politan. If you don't know me, lead anchor for Court TV, your front row seat to justice, the network that puts the cameras inside the courtrooms so you can watch it and everybody else can take our feed and stream it. That's how it works. But thank you so much for joining me today. Okay, so what am I talking about here? Let me lay this out piece by piece, and then I'm going to get to a lot of comments today. I want to see what you have to say about all of this. All right, so let me begin with the big picture. Prosecutor versus defense attorney, okay? Prosecutor is there for the truth, and the truth equals justice, right? You let the facts are what they are. The evidence is what it is. You present it and you believe that it proves that the defendant did it. Okay? First of all, you have to have a good faith belief yourself. And the evidence has to be there. You can't bring a case that you don't believe can prove it. And you don't bring a case certainly against someone you believe did not commit the offense that you're charging him with. That's number one. And it's very rare that a prosecutor would ever violate that. But in addition to that, your obligation is to the truth and the truth only. Okay? Your role is not to win the case. It's not, all right, one side is here, one side's there. Your job is to win. Whatever it takes, you get there. No. You want the evidence and the facts to be put in front of the jury. And then you believe that once those facts and evidence is put in front of the jury, that it clearly proves that the defendant did it. And you've proven it beyond a reasonable doubt. Okay? That's your job. And the truth. It's all about the truth. Because that's how you equal justice. I mean, someone gets indicted because they did it, right? That's your job as a prosecutor. At least you believe they did it. Now, a defense attorney, on the other hand, completely different. No obligation to the truth whatsoever. And that's the only way our system works. Their obligation is to their client, is to do whatever's in the best interest of the client. They don't have to lay out all the evidence. As a matter of fact, they have no obligation to put in any evidence at all. They can remain completely silent and do nothing. The burden is on the other side to prove the case beyond a reasonable doubt. Their job is to protect the rights of the accused. So it's not equal. So when you hear the arguments inside the courtroom, I say this all the time, a prosecutor ethically, if they're acting ethically, should only be arguing about the truth, should not be trying to brush over some things and try to take something and turn it and twist it to win the case. No, your job is to just lay out the facts as they are, make the argument, and tell the jury how the facts, when applied to the law, equal guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. It's really that simple. Defense attorney, it's much different, first of all. Like, they have no obligation, number one. Number two, their job is to protect the rights, to make sure that their client does not get convicted if the prosecution has not provided the evidence beyond a reasonable doubt. So it's a layer of protection. And sometimes people who have committed the offense are found not guilty. Our system is set up that way to set guilty people free before one innocent person gets convicted. And that's why the roles are so different. And that's why defense attorneys are given more leeway and have no ethical obligation to the truth. Whereas that is the ethical obligation of the prosecution. Okay, so now you lay that out and it makes sense. It's the way the system works. It's the way that people can be prosecuted, but we don't give complete and total power to prosecutors, right? They have the burden, they've got to prove it, and we give a little bit of an advantage to the defense in the ethical obligations of a defense attorney. Sometimes they don't like it when I point this out, that they don't have an obligation to the truth, but they don't. And if they did, then the system couldn't work. Because if they knew that their client did it, they're going to agree with the prosecution? How is that a system of justice? That doesn't work. So that's why it's different. So why do I lay all this out? Because I've been saying this for years and years and years. So what's happening here? What is the madness that I'm talking about? Well, the first step of the madness is you have an office, the Norfolk County DA's office has 130 employees. They're not all lawyers. Some are investigators, some are support staff, etc. I get it. But it's a big office. It's 130 employees. Yet they don't have one person in there that they believe can prosecute this case. So they have to go out and spend, I think it's $75,000 to bring in an outsider. And that's why I think things have gotten a little bit crazy here. Okay. And that's because they've hired someone who's a good attorney, really good attorney, but he's really a defense attorney. And the way he is trying this case right now is like a defense attorney, but he's a prosecutor and he's trying it like a defense attorney. What do I mean by this? What do I mean? What do defense attorneys do before trial? We have all this pretrial litigation. Everything they do is they file motions to get evidence excluded, right? They try to get evidence suppressed or excluded. They want to keep stuff from the jury because it makes their client look guilty, right? But that's what defense attorneys are supposed to do. That's what defense attorneys have to do to keep the system honest. But now we're in bizarro world where the prosecution is filing motion after motion after motion to exclude evidence and witnesses who testified in the first trial. Like, that's what defense attorneys do. I get it. He is a defense attorney. But right now, he's a $75,000 prosecutor working on one case. And his approach to all of this is like a defense attorney. I'm going to win this case, and I'm going to win it by keeping evidence from getting in front of the jury. He's allowed to file these motions, right? He may or may not win. I don't know. But just think about the mentality, because when I think of our system of justice and I think about being a prosecutor, which I was, and defense attorneys, it's always about the bigger picture of what your job, what your role is, how it's supposed to work, so the system works. And the system is broken. I pointed this out on another video at some point. I don't know. I've said it on the air as well. Right now, in cities across this country, we have people who've been elected as local prosecutors and DAs in offices who ran not to prosecute people, but to reform justice and set people free and not prosecute criminals. And it's destroyed cities. It's destroyed cities. It's made things more dangerous. It has upset the system because they're not concerned about the truth. They're not concerned about taking the facts and applying to the law. They are concerned about how many criminals can I set free. And they have disrupted the system, and not in a good way. And I believe here, the same thing is happening, but in a different way, where the system and the roles are being disrupted and throwing things out of whack. Like a prosecutor who doesn't want the jury to see or hear things. Like, if you've indicted someone who committed the offense that you've charged them with, put your evidence in. Let them put their evidence in. Your evidence should be enough to prove it beyond a reasonable doubt, because that's your job and that's your belief. It's almost to the point that you almost shouldn't care what they put in. Oh, they're going to bring in this expert to say this. Well, I'll get the expert who will say the truth. And you have a battle of the experts. Like, it's really strange. And I don't know if, I haven't covered a lot of cases in Massachusetts recently. I don't know how things have changed. But why do we have prosecutors trying to keep evidence from being heard by the jury? To me, that just makes me skeptical. Skeptical as a former prosecutor, skeptical as a legal journalist. Like, what are you doing? It's the same feeling I had in the Delphi case, which is very different than this case. Very different. And again, this doesn't go to the ultimate truth of the case. This goes to how our system figures out the truth, which is important because it affects everyone and every case. If we start changing the system, like in Delphi, the judge tried to prevent the defendant from having the counsel of his choice, who had volunteered their time to try the case. It wasn't like they were asking for state money. They were just, he wants us to represent him. We want to represent him. And you're not allowing us, judge? Like that was insane. And if that becomes like a precedent that a judge can decide who gets to represent the defendant, like, no, that's up to the defendant. That's like in the Constitution. So, that's why this is upsetting to me, because it's bigger and goes beyond this case and this defendant. It's like, do we want prosecutors now to be of the mindset that our job is to win And if the defense has a defense or has evidence they want to present that we need to make sure the jury doesn't see it, the jury doesn't hear it. Does that sound like our system? It's a little strange. It's a little strange to me. It's a little foreign to me and to my mindset as my mindset always was, listen, I've got someone here who's been indicted. I've got my evidence here. All my evidence proves it. What are they going to put in there? All right, let them put in their evidence. My job as a prosecutor is cross-examination and make the argument to the jury as to why that evidence is ridiculous or makes no sense. So in this case, it's not just the dog bite expert from yesterday. It's Richard Green, their digital forensic expert, talking about the alleged Google searches. And now it's the accident reconstructionists. All of it. Like, they don't want the guys who did the investigation for the feds, for the FBI, who the defense called in the first trial. They don't want them to be permitted to testify. They don't want Richard Green, the one whose expert opinion was that the Google search, How's Long to Die in the Cold, was at 2:27 in the morning. They don't want him to testify. And as you saw in court, they don't want the dog bite expert, the doctor, the ER doctor for 30 years who's seen 500 bites, to give her opinion on what she saw. Now, you don't have to believe any of their opinions. Their opinions can be wrong. I've covered a lot of trials at Court TV. There have been a lot of experts who have given opinions that have not been believed by the jury. And we have battle of the experts. Well, if this expert is so wrong, put your expert on who can tell the jury why that expert is ridiculous and makes no sense. That's the way it works. That's the way you should want it to work. Like, if the other side has a case or has evidence, put it up there. I'm not worried about your evidence. I'm worried about the truth. And I'm putting my evidence out there that is the truth. And if yours isn't, I should be able to demonstrate to the jury that it's not the truth. Like, that's normal. That's what happens in normal trials. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of trials that we've covered on Court TV for decades. These two cases, Delphi and now KarenRead, really have me like, what's going on? Delphi, it was like the judge was seemingly doing stuff on her own, which was bizarro. This one, you brought in an aggressive attorney, but he's a defense attorney, and he's prosecuting this case like a defense attorney. And there's a different role that you have and a different mindset. And I'm sure, he was a prosecutor. He knows all this, but he also knows, as a defense attorney, the things that you do and the way you approach a case. And I am not comfortable with it as a former prosecutor. And I've been attacked for years. As often you're a prosecutor, you always take their side. Everyone's guilty. Everyone's guilty. This isn't even about guilty, not guilty. This is about how it has to work in order for the jury to figure it out. Like, I would get upset a lot of times when the defense would get evidence suppressed. And I'm like, let the jury see it. Let the jury hear it. Let the jury weigh it. Make your arguments, but don't hide stuff from the jury. The jury's trying to figure out what happened. The more information they have, the better. Always. And I'm usually making this argument, and the roles are reversed. Like, the defense is trying to keep all this stuff from being in front of the jury. And I've attacked the defense for that. And I understand they're doing their job, but I'm like, I think in our system, the rules of evidence oftentimes put the jury in a place where they're not getting a clear picture of what happened. And 99 times out of 100, or maybe 999 times out of 1,000, it's because of what the defense is attempting to have suppressed. And yeah, we have a constitution, we have constitutional protections. And if the evidence was obtained illegally, it has to be suppressed. It has to be suppressed. But there are other times where there's other pieces of evidence where you're weighing probative versus prejudicial value. And those arguments are judgment calls, literally judgment calls by a judge based upon the arguments of counsel. And in those cases, I think you should lean more towards letting the jury see and hear more of the evidence so they can weigh the evidence themselves, figure it out, 12 people discuss it, and come to a consensus on what happened and what it means. But once you start preventing them from seeing and hearing the evidence, they're not getting the whole picture. And I think we're doing a misservice to our jury. Let them see more, not less. So why is the prosecution doing this? I think they're doing this because, and think about this is not like outrageous evidence that there's no way the defense should be allowed to have this. This is all evidence that was part of the first trial. Do you understand that? Like, this judge permitted this evidence in the first trial and suddenly would not permit it in the second trial. That's strange. That, if the defense was attempting to do this, I'd be shocked. Not in any case. In any case, if the defense in a retrial was trying to get stuff suppressed that was allowed in the first trial, I'd be like, come on, guys, give me a break. You know it's admissible, right? But now it's the other way around, and it's got my head spinning because I'm not used to this. This is not the way it usually goes. This is not the usual pretrial battles that you have inside a courtroom. It's weird. It's really weird. And it has me question. I don't think, though, I mean, what the prosecution is asking is the judge to overrule herself in a sense. Like, you allowed this in the first trial, but you were wrong, judge. You can't allow it in the second trial. And here's why. Because it was all permitted in the first trial. Like, put the evidence up there. If you've got new evidence, great. And I think prosecutors are developing some new evidence. They've got some new experts. They've done some testing. They've got some information. If that's going to be different in the second case, great. That's the way it's supposed to be. But to make the second case different by excluding things that were in the first one doesn't make sense to me. Doesn't make sense to me. We'll see how it all turns out. This may be all about nothing. Maybe the judge will just allow everything. But personally, I'm not comfortable with it. I'm not comfortable with it because of, as I said off the top, the different role between a prosecutor and defense attorney. Prosecutor, I always want more information in front of the jury, not less, more information. The one place where the battle usually is fought, and it's not any part of this case, but the one time where prosecutors try to limit information is when it comes to when the defense is attacking the victim who can't speak for him or herself, right? Is attacking their character or anything like that, right? And those are times where, all right, prosecutors got to step up and protect the victim to a certain extent. We can't turn this into a trial of the victim, depending upon the circumstances of the case. But that's the limited time when you usually see this level of aggressiveness from a prosecution in limiting what a jury gets to see and hear. Like, their expert for the computer is basically saying that it's not even up for debate. Like, this is so crystal clear. And I'm like, okay, if it's so crystal clear, then go into the courtroom and say that to the jury. The fact that you're expert is better, or your expert is so convinced, or your expert works for the company and understands everything, that's great. That's for the trial. That's for the trial. That's for the jury to figure out. Not for the judge to exclude it so the jury never hears any of that evidence. That's not right. That's not right. Just beat them. Beat them with the facts. Beat them with the your expert, and beat them with your arguments. But you don't beat them by not letting them fight. That's usually what defense attorneys do. Don't let the jury see this evidence because it makes my client look bad. That's basically what they usually argue. So it's upside down from my perspective, and I do think part of it is the recent experience of this newly hired special prosecutor who's coming in to try the case. And I don't understand why they brought someone else in. Like, all right, if you didn't like Lally, then bring someone else from your office. You don't have somebody else in your office who could try a red rum case? Really? You got to bring in someone from the outside? Like if I lived in Norfolk County, I would be like, well, why not hire better lawyers if you don't like the people you have in your office? If the people in your office aren't capable of trying the case, then hire some new ones, right? With your budget. It's crazy. All right. So I'm going to get to some comments here on this Wednesday. Yeah, this is actually a fast week. Usually that first week for me back in it kind of moves, but it's flying by. We had big shows Monday and Tuesday on Court TV. A big show tonight. Thursday and Friday, I have to tell you, Thursday and Friday. We're going to take a look on Vinnie Politan Investigates at 9 o'clock Thursday, 9 o'clock Friday at the John Bonet case. And there's this one guy who's kind of been talked about from the beginning, has written some letters, seemingly or directly implicating himself in the case. Well, we've got some video of him, and the man who recorded the video and spent like a weekend with him, talking with him. We're going to show you all this video to try to understand if this guy is a viable person of interest in the case. What value do his alleged confessions have? It's going to be fascinating. And again, it's going to be Thursday and Friday, 9 o'clock, and Vinnie Politan Investigates. Just wanted to make sure I told you that. All right. So there's three, right? There's three different things they're going after. They're going after the hose long. They're going after the accident reconstruction experts. And in court, what we've seen is going after the dog bite expert. Now, before I get to the comments, on my show, I brought in a dog bite expert last night who does a lot of work, has testified in hundreds of cases. He's an animal behaviorist guy. And, I think the cases that he handles are probably more civil in nature. But he talks about what a dog bite expert has to, from his perspective, what they have to go through and what they have to analyze. And he went through different steps. The bite marks are part of it, but also the dog's behavior, any sort of analysis. I think there's some testing on the dog's behavior that you can do as well. So that's the world that he lives in, and that's sort of his expertise. So he was not impressed with the defense expert. And I get it. Like he's an expert in that field, and he's like, well, that's not the way we do it. I've never seen an ER physician as a dog bite expert. It's veterinarians, it's animal people who raise dogs, it's animal behavior people who generally do this work. And that's fine. So, if this dog bite expert testifies that this is it, then you get your own expert and you cross-examine the defense expert on the stand about how they came to their conclusion and how they did it. And then you bring in your own expert who'll say, no, this is not consistent with a dog bite. This not at all. This is missing. That is missing. This is missing. And in order to figure it out, you've got to spend time with the dog, which I did. So you have your expert spend time with the dog. You take the mold of the dog's teeth and you compare it, and you have the battle inside of the courtroom. And the jury takes away whatever they take away. But they don't even want to have the fight. It reminds me a little bit of what was been happening on our college campuses, where there are a lot of issues that a lot of the younger generation believes in, that they won't even debate with anyone. They say, no, this is set in stone. We're not even going to debate it. And that's a mentality that's been adopted, which is so dangerous. And, you see it at college campuses. Yeah, it's dangerous there, but it gets much more dangerous inside a courtroom if we don't allow the debate. Because what is a trial? It's one side versus the other. There's two sides to the story, and then the jury figures it out. I don't understand that. All right. So let's get to some of your comments. First of all, Frankie Figs is with us, reminding us that you can get the true crime merch from the Vinny Originale store, by the way. And of course, Frankie Figs, part of our mod squad.
Order in the chat. Order in the chat. Don't dare attack. We've got order in this chat. The mod squad is on the job, helping us to keep it clean. The mod squad is on the job, always so nice and never mean.
All right, big thanks to our mod squad. We've got Gen X, Frankie Pigs, Jennifer Sube. I don't know if everyone is here today because I just, spur of the moment, I said, boom, we're going live. And that's the way I do it, unfortunately, or I just do it when I have time. So, but thanks to them. And also, don't forget, over on Facebook, Ashley Bouchard, keeping order in the chat over there. We got the best mod squad in the business, folks, in the business. Okay, now get to more of our comments. Crafty Chris, broken taillight polycarbonate would not create parallel lacerations. Parallel lacerations, that seems to be the main basis for the opinion of the dog bite expert, right? Those parallel things could be teeth or it could be a scratch. So when you look at that and you're a prosecutor and you have parallel lacerations, all right, show the jury through your expert how John O'Keefe got those parallel lacerations. This is what we believe. Show the jury what you believe. Put an expert up there. Come on. Well, they really didn't at the first trial. I'm sure the second trial will be different. I'm sure they're going to beef up their experts, but that's the way trials are tried. Now, could you imagine, that the prosecution had an expert talking about polycarbonate making parallel lacerations, and the defense got up and said, Judge, you can't allow this expert in there because whatever reason. Like Trooper Paul, who testified last time. Was he really qualified for what he was doing? Nice guy, but clearly in over his head in the first trial. But yeah, he testified. He had the training. He was part of the unit. He testified, and the defense attacked the credibility of what he was arguing. That's how you do it. We're not reinventing anything here. That's just the way we do it. Let's see. Angela Marie, justice for John O'Keefe and free Karen Read. That's the other thing that's different about this case. Like I said before, many times the defense, when they're pointing the finger we're going to point the finger somewhere. Many times they pointed at the victim in the case. This case completely out. Nobody is pointing the finger at John O'Keefe. Nobody's saying John O'Keefe did anything wrong. Period. Nobody is. Nobody's blaming him for anything. Everyone agrees he's the victim. So that's a little different here. It's just they believe different people are responsible for it. Want some coffee? Wow, Vinny. Wow. Wow. All right. This is a long one. Let me see what this is. If at least they would have knocked on the door of those people where John was found on their land, they did not even knock on their door just to see if they were awake. Says Muriel. Yeah, there's another strange fact that the folks upstairs, the Alberts, slept through all the activity in front of their house, but they were up late. Might be heavy sleepers. I don't know. Were they hungover? If you're hungover, does it make you sleep a little deeper? Nursey dog mom, very little pay if he's so great. $75,000 for one case. It's gonna take up a lot of your time, right? He's gonna, the moment he was appointed to this, to the moment the trial happens, I don't know how much he's got to keep the rest of his practice alive, right? So he's got to do some other things on the side. He can't do this and just this, but it's a big lift. I was a little surprised that the number was that low. I think if it goes past June 30th, which it could potentially go past June 30th. I don't think so, but if it does, then there'll be a new contract and it'll get more money. But you're right. That's not a ton of money. It's a lot less money than the defense is costing. But obviously the case has already been prepared because they tried it once already. He's stepping in. Lally is working with him. So the buildup, it's not like a case has just been handed to someone and he's got to figure it out. No, a case has been handed to someone, but he's got all the support and all the help of everyone in the office. So I think that is different than a case where all of a sudden someone has a new lawyer. Like when a defendant gets a new lawyer, a lot of times the old lawyer is not necessarily working hand in hand with the new lawyer. The new lawyer's starting from ground zero. And Echo GL, after listening to other dog experts, she doesn't seem to qualify. I think they should both have their own experts. There you go. Of course. That's not outrageous. That's not crazy. It's not crazy if all these people testified in the second trial. They testified in the first trial. Right. And that was, I'm just going to go on another tangent here, even though it's not the Tangent Podcast, but it is sort of related. The Menendez brothers had two trials. The first one was a hung jury. The second one, number one, they didn't permit cameras, so nobody other than the people in the courtroom saw the case. Two, they did not allow the defense to try their case. Like those defense experts were banned and barred. And some things did happen in the interim connected to one of the Menendez brothers and making a statement, and things changed a little bit. But the trial was much different than the first one. The first one that we all saw or can watch on courttv.com on demand for free wasn't about the alleged essay. It wasn't. It was a different case. That part was sort of gutted from the defense. So the defense had a different case. And because they had a different case, there was a much different result, and they were convicted. So I never really fully understood or necessarily agreed with that either. Like, why are we excluding that? But there were some facts that seemingly changed a little bit with some statements that were made. But still, cross-examination, you know? If they want to try the case, let them try the case. Mhm. Maria M. Great point, Maria M. I'm glad this is public and we all are watching. Yes. Could you imagine if all this was happening behind closed doors and the only information you would get would be secondhand from a reporter? And there's good reporters, there's bad reporters, but all reporters are human. So, for example, when Michael Jackson was tried, depending upon which reporter you listen to telling you about what happened inside the courtroom, you would have a completely different idea about what was happening inside the courtroom. Because our own biases as humans, when you become a journalist, you don't and stop being a human, right? And they were seeing things differently, and the way they were reporting it was different. And the public opinion of the case was being shaped by people telling us what they saw and what they heard, not by us actually seeing and hearing it. Massachusetts is great. Massachusetts allows the public to see and hear what's happening in the courtroom. And as a result, we get to form our own opinions based upon our own observations, not what someone like me told you or some other reporter told you about what was happening. You get to see what actually happens. All right. So, as usual, I'm a half hour behind in the comments. All right. Polygraph. Vinny, I hated watching this hearing, but the dog bite story has been ridiculous from the start. I think he's trying to cut out some of this beep, beep, and keep the train on the rails. Yes, but he's also trying to cut out evidence about the Google search. He's also trying to cut out evidence about the accident reconstructionists. Okay? So if it was just this, I would have a slightly different opinion about what was happening here. But it's not just this. There are three big areas. They're going after the accident reconstructionists who were hired by the FBI, who had an opinion. They're going after Richard Green, the expert who took a look at the Google searches, who had an opinion, and then the dog bite expert who had an opinion. So it's not just one, it's 1, 2, 3. So I think it's a little more than just trying to cut out some of the beep, beep, right? He's trying to win the case, period. And he's trying to limit what the jury can see and hear. Anything that hurts him, he does not want the jury to hear or see. Anything that could potentially hurt him, because it may not hurt him. If you've got the truth and you've got the facts, it shouldn't hurt you. You should be able to say that it is beep, beep. This is ridiculous. You're right. Let me put on the prosecutor hat. Oh, no. So if you believe that this expert is not credible, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, she's not a dog bite expert. She's an emergency room physician. You heard our expert, and you heard her on the stand. She doesn't want to know about the mold of the dog. She doesn't want to know about the dog's behavior. She doesn't want to know about the dog's history. None of that is relevant to her. She can just look at a picture and give you an opinion. I brought an expert in here who spent time with the dog. I brought an expert in here who took a mold of the dog's bite. I took an expert who has done this hundreds of times inside of a courtroom as an expert, ladies and gentlemen. Who are you going to believe? What makes sense to you? That's the way you handle it. It doesn't get handled by You don't get to see or hear it. Like and again, if it was just the dog bite expert, okay, maybe this is a stretch. Maybe this isn't a true expert. But the other two were, and they want them excluded as well. It's actually three because two of them were talking about the same thing. But the other three experts were experts, like real experts. So. I've got to go a little quicker through some of these comments. I'm moving very slowly. All right. Betty Blackburn. This is the Salem witchcraft trials all over again. All those women were innocent, and so is Karen. Were they all innocent? We sure not even one of them was a witch? Not even one? I would say it's not exactly like, but I think you can bring up those because it's New England, right? So you could bring up those comparisons, but also Sacco and Vanzetti, my two paisans. That case was interesting because you had same courthouse, Sacco and Vanzetti, but they were in cages when they were being tried. And they were eventually, I guess, was it, I think the governor, it may have been Dukakis, finally set Sacco and Vanzetti free, I think. Not that they were still alive, but you know what I mean. Pardoned them or dismissed the charges. Judy Wright. I like Vinny, but he's so blatantly on the side of KR, I can't watch him on this topic. Judy. I guess Judy's not watching anymore, but Judy goes beyond this case. It always goes beyond this case. I would not say I am blatantly on the side of KR. I am calling and seeing it as I see it. I think the red rum charge is clearly not guilty. I think this case should be about, did she accidentally do this or did she not accidentally do this? And I think that's where that first jury landed. I think that's where the first jury landed on all of this. I don't think the first jury, based upon the statements they made afterwards, I think they saw it the way I saw it, which was, this was not red rum. This was not knowingly done. This was not purposely done. Boom. What they were debating was whether or not this was accidentally done by her. That's what they were debating. Some believed it, some didn't. Ashley Bouchard, Hank Brennan defended Whitey Bulger and claimed government corruption. Interesting. Right. Aggressive defense attorney doing his job. Didn't work, right? Whitey was convicted. Okay. Nemolotus. I think I got that right. It seems like they are interrogating the witnesses. That's good cross-examination. I mean, when you have a witness from the other side who's on the stand, it should be like an interrogation. Most judges won't allow you to scream or yell, but you can be sarcastic, you can be forceful, you can, attack, but you can't cross. There's a line you can't cross. The line that we see sometimes in TV dramas. where you get up in the face and you're you can't do that. Come on. It's a courtroom. It's a courtroom. But no, sometimes you do get a little elevated. Surely not. Their biggest fears are dog attacks, Google searches, and science. Those are the three areas that they want the jury to not see. The experts from the defense. You are correct. Ashley Bouchard reminding everyone, we all have a right to our opinion. And it's okay to respectfully disagree. Same rules apply here that apply in a courtroom. We can disagree. We can debate. We can argue, but we can't turn it into personal attacks. We cannot cross that line of nasty language, right? It's a trial, folks. There's at least two sides to every trial. Not everyone's going to agree on every case. Maybe the Stephen Stearns case will all agree. But there's always some folks who don't agree. Sometimes the split is closer. Sometimes it's 50-50, 70-30, 80-20, 90-10, 99-100. It's just, but inside a courtroom, each side is presenting a side of the case. So if they can debate it in a courtroom and a jury has to figure it out, we can clearly debate it in a chat room and figure it out, but with a level of decorum and respect. Everyone's here because they're interested in what we're all interested in. So we have that common denominator, but we may see things a little differently. Just like the jury in this case saw it differently. That's why they were hung. All right. Subi 618. The whole point is for both sides to present their case for the jury to decide. This is insane. Yes. Exactly.
Time to get happy.
Look who's here.
It's time to get funky. It's time for us to smile. Because here comes McSpunky.
Reminding everyone to get along. Because we all get along with McSpunky, who's driving and lurking, saying hello to Vinny, the mods, and all. All right, drive safely. McSpunky, great to have you aboard. Okay, Marissa asking, Vinny, this is a great question. Vinny, do you think this has always happened? Do you think this always happened? We just are connected nowadays. And when you say, do you think this has always happened? I'm not quite sure what you mean, but I'll take it in a couple directions. What we're seeing in this case, I think what hasn't always happened is someone like Karen Read getting strangers to support her. And that's only happened because we are connected and because someone like Turtle Boy saw this case, felt like it was an injustice, and spoke out about it. Okay, so that's why that happened. Why did prosecutors go after Karen Read? I think they believe she's guilty. I think they do. Because if they don't, they should lose their law licenses. If they don't believe she's guilty and they're trying her for this case, I think they do believe that's where the facts lead here. I think prosecutors are also worried about the public support that they generally speaking, prosecutors get that support day in and day out, right? Most people are presumed innocent, but are presumed guilty by the public once they're arrested, right? You're presumed innocent in a courtroom, but the public, they see you in the perp walk, they read the article, they read a headline, they presume, oh yeah, They did it. They did it. They did it. And prosecutors are used to that. I'm a former prosecutor. Like, we're the good guys and gals. I love that word gal, by the way. My mom used to use that. So they're used to being on that side and generally having the public on their side and generally having the media on their side, because we all want criminals prosecuted and locked up. But this case, the public turned. The public turned on the prosecutor, and I think they've gotten defensive. So I think they're doing things now that they wouldn't normally do because they're defensive. And we saw it when the DA published that statement, that public statement, which was kind of strange and not normal. So it has really turned it on its head. We rarely see cases where the public outcry is that someone is being wrongfully accused. It's happened a few times, a blip here, a blip there. But never in a case like this. This is a very ordinary private case. It has no political implications, right? About anything. It's a domestic case. It's two people who are in a relationship. And it's rare when you have a case like that where it becomes this public. Like a case like the Kelly Marie Anthony down in Central Florida, in Orlando, became huge. But everyone believed she was guilty. Prosecutors had the people on her side. Jodi Arias, the prosecutors had people on their side. It didn't happen here. It was the opposite. And they were very uncomfortable with it. And all the things that they've done since, I think, is a reaction to that, which they shouldn't change. Your job remains the same. And I think that has thrown things a little bit here. Mo McDermott, to the person who said Vinny is a KR supporter. I don't think Vinny is taking sides. He is showing fairness to both defense and prosecution. Yeah, I mean, my goodness, if you watch my show at night, that's what we do. The dog bite experts I've brought in were attacking the dog bite expert brought in by the defense, the ones that I brought on my show the last two nights. And I didn't go looking for someone to attack them. We just looked for a dog bite expert, people that have done this work. Bring them in. You have no dog in this race, right? What do you think? And they told us what they thought. It's kind of what I do. Thank you, Mo. All right. I'm going to go a little quicker here to try to get a little more current. Sue Forte sharing in New Hampshire. Thank you for sharing. Make sure you share, you like, you subscribe, you follow. You do everything you do. Lisa Lamb on Twitch today. They hate KarenRead more than they care about the truth. That's interesting, right? Is it personal? And that's another thing you can't do as a prosecutor. Like, you can't make it personal about the defense attorneys. You can't make it personal about the defendant. It's always about one thing and one thing only: the truth. The truth equals justice. Just put the truth out there, prove the truth, make the arguments, cross-examine the other evidence, the other witnesses that are saying something different, and win the case. Echo Gal, the judge in the Delphi case was horrible. Yeah, one of the worst ever. Could be the worst ever. All right. Willow Wren says guilty, guilty, guilty. 3 counts of the indictment. Redondo Beach is with us. Oh my goodness. Folks in LA. Wow. I'm looking at those pictures. That is insanity. Neighborhoods are just gone. Our thoughts are with you. Hopefully it doesn't get down to Redondo Beach. I live in LA County. Dr. Russell is impressive. That woman had so much education experience. It's ridiculous. Yeah, unless you're going to say she's lying about it. I mean, 30 years, a lot of dog bites. I don't know. Mm-hmm. All right. I'm just making sure I'm not missing some things here. Roseanne Dana. Is it Roseanne Dana? Prosecution very desperate. I'm not going to say desperate. I'm going to say overly aggressive. That's the word I'm going to use. I'm going to say overly aggressive in going places and doing things that, if your case is your case, you don't need to go. You don't need to do it. You don't need to do it. But I think, they are kind of like, flinching a little bit, again, because of the public reaction to this. Chelsea Whitaker. Vinny, come on. You've seen Lally. You've seen their law enforcement. It's special. Chelsea playing the fiddle. You know who else could play the fiddle? Court TV alum, Chanley Painter could play the fiddle. Mm-hmm. All right, let's see. Mm-hmm. Crybaby 23, Court TV is a TV channel. Yes, Crybaby. Also have a YouTube channel. Court TV has their own channel as well. You want to subscribe to that. But yeah, it's a TV channel, and we're everywhere. Everywhere. You can get us on a digital antenna, streaming, cable. We are everywhere. Everywhere. Laura Munoz Delaney. I'd love to see Vinny in action in court as a prosecutor. Yeah, we're never going to see that. We're never going to see that. Yeah, I'm retired from the practice of law. I'm not going back. I think it would be fun. It's the one thing I'd like to do if I ever went back, just to try a case. But that's an intent. I mean, like we see the lawyers in there, but like the intensity of what it takes, and then you add the high profile nature of a case, there is such a weight on the shoulders of both sides. Like when you're in a case, it's all you do for that time period. So if it's a 3-month trial, for 3 months, there's really not time off, right? Yeah, you have to eat. You should exercise a little bit if you can, but you're constantly churning and thinking, because you finish one day, you go back and you've got to prepare for the next day. And that's both sides. Prosecutors have to prepare for what witnesses am I putting them up? What do I need to, all of that. And then the defense has to prepare for their cross-examination of that witness. And they've got to know everything that they need to know. Sometimes you don't know exactly which witnesses are going to be on. It could be, 5 potential witnesses, and you're doing all that preparation the night before. And then you do another full day. And then maybe a legal issue comes up, and all of a sudden your legal research and writing a brief in the middle of a trial, potentially, depending upon how much help you have, it's not easy. It's not easy. But yeah, it would be fun. It would definitely be fun. But yeah, I think even more fun would be like a mock trial. Maybe a mock trial would be fun. Maybe we'll do one of those one day. We'll get a mock courtroom. I have a friend who has one, and maybe we'll try a case. That'd be fun, right? That's a great idea. That's a great idea. Thank you, Laura. Mm-hmm. Polygraph. Vinny, that guy in the John Bonet case isn't viable at all. That Netflix documentary is full of lies. They leave you at the end thinking Carr could be guilty, but he was proven in Georgia that night. I'm not talking about John Mark Carr. It's somebody else. Ooh, was that a great tease? Thursday and Friday, 9 o'clock. Vinny Politan investigates. Okay. Laura Nabo. What I want to know is that early on, is my understanding that the defense wanted Chloe produced, but were denied and told that was not possible. How the heck did Brennan find her and get her available so fast? Yeah, there was a lot of back and forth about all of that, that the dog disappeared. Where's the dog? Produce the dog. We don't have the dog. Where's the dog? I mean, at the end of the day, if the dog can be produced, and if you're the defense and you believe in your case, should you take it a step further at this point? Would prosecutors stop you from doing it? Should you get another expert? I don't know. I don't know. But that was, yeah, you're right, Lauren. It was. So that is a little interesting. And again, the way this case was tried early on, some of those early motions, it was, as things were coming to light, the case snowballed and the defense snowballed. And then we ended up on Proctor. You know, a question I have, and this is a legit question, and I think this is something you have to think about as the trial in 2025 on-court TV takes place. Will the defense change? Will the defense change their approach to the case? Now, if these rulings go a certain way, they'll be forced to do that, right? But if the judge rules the same way in the second trial as she did in the first trial, which she should, will the defense change their approach at all? Will they focus in another area? I mean, from my perspective, what really changed from the pre-trial to right before the trial and then during the trial was Proctor. How it became much more about Proctor than anything else. It became a little bit more of a traditional type of defense. That it's a sloppy defense or a corrupt, sloppy investigation, a corrupt investigation, rather than going after the Alberts and going after other people inside the home that night. It sort of changed, and there was a lot more focus on Proctor, and it was a big headline from the case, right? I mean, that was the big moment for the defense. The big moment for the defense wasn't the Google search. The big moment for the defense was Proctor on the stand. That was the real meat of their case. So I'm wondering, going into the second trial, now that he's been disciplined even further, how much more of a factor does that play? How much more of an emphasis does that play in the way the defense approaches this case? And will they have the same bold opening statement that they did in the first one? I don't know. The defense is allowed to shift gears a little bit and emphasize one thing over another. They could change their theory if they wanted to. Are we going to see a different? I think we're going to see some changes in the defense as well. We don't know what they are. I think the changes with the prosecution we're seeing in court. I think that the defense will modify what they do slightly. I don't think it'll be as drastic as the prosecution will be. Second trials are always different. And I've been saying this on television a lot. I generally don't like the retrials. The retrials are often anticlimactic, not as climatic, not as compelling as the first trial. This one, the second trial, I think will be even more. The intensity surrounding the case has built up. Things have happened since then. There's new blood for the prosecution. I think the second case is going to be more compelling, more intense from the first, and I think we'll get a verdict. Maybe I don't know, but I think we may get at a minimum the partial verdict that we didn't get, that the jury seemingly got to in the first trial. All right. Wow, I'm further behind now than I was before. So sorry, but great question. This is a new voice I haven't seen here in the chat before. I play tennis. I think the doctor's testimony and slight arrogance saying she doesn't need to examine Chloe or her teeth would be the defense's downfall. Commonwealth brings their own expert and it's game over. I play tennis appears to be an Eagles fan. Yeah, that's not a good statement. That's not a good statement when you say, I don't need to see that. I think the way an expert should say, well, if you have that, yeah, I'd like to consider that as well. I think more information is better. And then do your analysis that way. But yeah, I think the way you testify and what you say and how you say it, both are equally important in front of a jury. All right. I am going to scroll past literally hundreds of comments to get to some of the more current ones, because I fell 45 minutes behind the chat, which I think is a new record for me. But every comment was so good and led to something. So it's your fault. Not really. And good conversation. I think part of the purpose. There's one from Aladar. Court of public opinion is no joke. And the court of public opinion turned on prosecutors. Absolutely. Thank you, Aladar, over on Twitch. Mm-hmm. Oh, Ashley Bouchard with another great point here. Having Nick Rocco and Kevin shows fairness. Yeah, if you watch my show, right? So our trial insiders, Nick Rocco, part of the Free Karen Read movement, runs the Facebook page, Justice for John O'Keefe and Karen Read. And Kevin Lanahan, who has the Yellow Cottage Tales, not buying Karen Read, right? So they see this completely differently. They're able to have the debate on the air. They're not friends. Like, they're not going out for drinks or anything, but they're able to have the conversation back and forth very well. I also bring in Joseph Krowski Jr., who is a criminal defense attorney, but sort of a Massachusetts criminal law, Norfolk County insider. He was connected to one of the people who was in the house. So some people say he's a little too far over into the prosecution camp. But he'll call out the prosecution when they're doing something wrong as well. But he sees the case the way he sees it, and he's very honest in his opinions. So he has, I put him on as well. Sometimes all three of them, sometimes just Nick and Kevin. But you're hearing from all sides, folks. You're hearing from all sides on my show. All All right, only 15 minutes behind. I've really skimmed very quickly here. All right. There's a couple of people I'm looking out for just to see if they're here today. That's why I'm going a little bit slower. I don't think they're commenting today. Mm-hmm. All right. Oh, don't forget, Jennifer Sube, one of our mods, is here. Wondering if the cameras were allowed. I'm wondering what you were talking about there, because I'd like to see. Let me just go back to Gringa. See what Gringa said. Yeah, I'm not sure what you guys are talking about, but that's okay. Alicia, put McSpunky on the stand. That's great. Carl Lafong gets Court TV with rabbit ears in Northern Nevada. Beautiful. Love it, love it, love it. Vinny, if you were an innocent defendant, would you testify? Yes, I would. I would. I think you have to, especially if it was one of the cases like the cases on Court TV, because I'd probably be accused of, it would be a red rum case, right? Like, I wouldn't do it. I didn't do it. And I'm going to tell you I didn't do it, ladies and gentlemen. I'd be a wreck on the stand. But I think I would. I think I would. All right, Lydia Bell. Brennan wants to discredit the expert for having possible theories, yet he brings up multiple theories of it being glass that cut the arm, then the tail light, then possibly the impact of the ground. Exactly. And he's entitled to argue all of those with expert testimony, and the expert could say, yeah, it's consistent with this, it's consistent with that, and it's consistent with this. It could be this, it could be that. I can't rule them out. Okay. That's what we do in every trial. That's why I'm pulling. Well, I don't have that much hair now, but back in the day, I'd be pulling my hair out. All right. I'm almost current. Big hello to Lauren Katie. Lindsay, can we please do a mock trial? Got me thinking of, I think we have to. The question is, which case? How do we do it? Love Boston. Vinny always behind in the chat. Well, the reason being is that I always do like my little, sometimes long little thing off the top, the first 10 to 40 minutes. And then I like to jump into the chat and, but I don't want to just start where I am with the current. I like to go back and see what people were talking about. At some point, I'm going to have somebody sitting right next to me that'll be able to click. Not all this. Okay, some good. Mike, Julie Grant not buying Karen's bleep bleep. Yeah. Julie Grant it believes the prosecution proved the case from the evidence that she saw. All right. Oh, here we go. Vinny, what music do you listen to? A wide array of music. I grew up, I was a disco guy for sure. But all 70s pop music I listened to. But then when disco hit, I was all in. Then I became a DJ, and it was dance music. It was freestyle. It was house. But I also was raised in a house where my parents were into music, and they would play their music. So you hear it. So, you go back to like the Four Seasons and Frank Sinatra. So because of that, and because of this, and then moving to Georgia, now I'm listening to some country music, believe it or not. So from country to the standards with like Sinatra, to anything from the 70s. And then in the 80s, obviously I was still into dance music, but also you had the alternative dance music, like the new wave stuff. So into that. And then I like boy bands. Sue me. So, Backstreet, NSYNC, and of course the Kings, New Kids on the Block, Belle Biv DeVoe, New Edition. So, it's a wide array of music. And it all depends on the mood. All right. Ooh, I don't know if is that a good word, like your handle? I'm not going to say it because I have a feeling that it's not good. If my life freedom was on the line, I will 100% take the stand. Kimmy, loving stuff. Mr. Green's written report was entered into evidence with penalty to perjury. Well, the question is, and Joseph Krowski believed that Green is going to change his opinion based upon this new report done by the folks connected to the software. I don't know if that's going to happen, but maybe. Philly PA girl, really? Vinny, only if claiming self-defense. Self-defense, you have to take the stand. But if you're innocent, if you're factually innocent and you're accused of something, you can tell the people where you were, what you were doing. I mean, it's not a case of taking the stand and you did it. It's a case of stand where you're factually innocent, you did not do it. But in our system, you cannot hold that against anyone. And the reason being because of the burden of proof is on the prosecution. You don't have to prove your innocence. They have to prove you guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. And you not saying anything cannot factor into your equation of whether or not the case was proven. And I think juries do that. Jennifer Soubey reminding you, watch me tonight, 8 o'clock, closing arguments. Then Vinny Politan investigates at 9 o'clock, 2 hours of live true crime. The only guy on television doing it every single night. Every single night. Silver Penny, Vinny, you're the only one that engages with your audience without having to pay. I don't think that's true, is it? But here's the deal. If you do a super chat, I respect every super chat. I try not to miss one. But yeah, you don't have to super chat. But if you do super chat, I'm going to put it up there. I will. I think it's the only respectful thing to do. Lindsay Gandy, Vinny loves Ice Cube. I'm going to say love. I think he's a great actor. Phenomenal actor. Great comedic chops. I liked Ice-T's breakdance song. More so than I didn't buy any music from Ice Cube. I'll be honest with you. Did not buy any music from Ice Cube. Groundbreaking, yes, absolutely. But I think Ice Cube's greatest talent, just comedic acting, which is not easy. That's like the hardest to do. I think it's harder than dramatic acting because you got to have it's timing, it's credibility. Like when someone has bad comedic timing, it's like, oh, geez. Some people should not try to be funny. You shouldn't try to be funny. Like he's got it. He's got it. Great talent. Also has that basketball league. All right. All right. I think I'm done. You know why? I'm looking at the clock. It's 12:30. And it's getting close for the time for me to eat. I just want to make sure I didn't miss anything. All right. There we go. So, Jane is already jumping the gun here. So it's that time of the program where I remind you to watch me tonight, 8 o'clock on Court TV, live true crime, 8 o'clock and 9 o'clock. That's number one. Please subscribe. Please like. It helps so much to keep this going, right? Also, thank you to the Mod Squad. Thank you for everyone for your support and your great comments, your great discussion, and for not being super nasty out there. But this is the time of the program where I remind you that I am a type 1 diabetic. What does that mean? That means I am hooked on insulin. I need to take insulin. I'm insulin dependent. I have an insulin pump. I have a pump that speaks with my glucometer that I have on me 24/7 and makes adjustments to my insulin levels to try to balance out my blood sugar. But based upon the way I performed today, what do you think? What do you think? And the new rules for 2025 is I am keeping track. I got my piece of paper to write it down. So if you are the one who correctly guesses my blood sugar first, you get on the list, okay? It's Vinny's BS list, blood sugar list. And we're going to hand out a quarterly prize, which will be something from the Vinny Originale store. A quarterly prize on who has guessed my blood sugar correctly the most times in that quarter. So it's January. So it's January, February, March. So for the next 3 months, and I say 3 months because every 3 months they do my A1C, which is a 3-month picture of what your blood sugar is, and it gives you a number. And that number is usually somewhere between 6 and 7 for most type 1 diabetics like me who have good control. Sometimes it can be a little lower, sometimes a little bit higher, but that number. But your daily blood sugar is what your current blood sugar is. And that number is, usually between 70 and 200 for someone with good control. If you're having a bad day or a bad moment, it can go way over 200. If you're having too much insulin and your blood sugar is diving, it can get under 70 and you start to shake and it gets very dangerous. So those are the parameters. So the question is, right now, at this moment, what is my blood sugar?
Here's a type 1. Here's type 1. His pancreas is on first. He has diabetes, type 1 juvenile diabetes. And so it's time to guess, is more or less. What's his blood sugar? What's Vinny's blood sugar?
That's some close guesses.
Under 70, he gets life's head.
Hi, baby, was close.
Under 60, all the alarms start ringing. Over 180, he starts to get lethargic.
Dorothy.
But when it's 90, Vinny, eyes are singing.
Type 1.
And so it's time to guess, is more or less. What's his blood sugar?
Oh, people are
What's
dancing
Vinny's
around the number
blood
today.
sugar? But take a guess.
Dancing.
Yes, take a guess. Let's guess.
Tanya
Vinny's
Barber,
blood sugar. Now
98. You're the first on the list this quarter. Tanya Barber, you've got a point. You are the leader in the clubhouse. Congratulations and good luck the rest of the season. If anyone else got it before her, I'm sorry, but I missed you, but I did not see anyone before Tanya. After Tanya, I see Amy got it, but a little late, Amy, just a little bit late. All right, folks, that wraps up this edition of the program. Thank you all for watching. Have a great day. I'll see you tonight, 8 o'clock on Court TV. In the meantime, please don't forget to hug the kids.
Get ready, get set, let's go.
it's true crime, streaming live, worldwide. It's Vinny Live. It's true crime, streaming live, worldwide. It's Vinny Live. Get ready to post inside the chat. Get ready for the prosecutor hat. Get set to like and to subscribe. Let's go. It's time for Vinny Live.